Every time.
Every single time. Can we just, before we get going, welcome to That Helps No One FantasyCast on the Dean Blundell Network. Before we get going, can we just have a moment of silence about as long as the Denver Broncos took to kick a way too long field goal attempt for the Queen because she passed away? Basically, the length of our intro video is how long they let Russell Wilson just not throw the ball after they paid him 256. Is that how much they were paying him? Yeah. And they went to kick with McManus, who's never made a kick from that far anywhere in that vicinity ever. And they just paid Russ $250 million to not throw the ball in a pressure situation. I mean, it's only week one, so what do you have to lose? And then the next question is, it's only week one. What do you have to lose?
Well, I mean, sometimes it takes 18 seconds to decide you want to call a timeout. That's just how it goes.
When you have three too, that's right. When you've got three timeouts and you're like, are you planning on getting the ball back after you miss this? So let's waste another 30 seconds. I don't get it. I mean, there
was a fun graph out earlier about all of Brandon McManus's kicks from 62 yards plus, and it was like missed.
Yeah.
Like, what are odds he makes this kick out of nowhere with, a screaming, super loud Seahawks crowd? But let's give him a shot anyways. Why not?
I mean, like the loudest stadium on earth.
Yeah,
maybe not on earth, but at least in the NFL.
I've done this before. Like, you've sat on the bench when the game was on the line. Yes, I have done that. It's
on that note, though, because I haven't been able to say this since like Phil Dawson was our kicker.
Oh. Go on.
I think I finally know what it's like, Steve, to have a weapon that can blast a 60-yard field goal like with room to spare and tons of confidence. So that was a first-time experience for me. Cade York hitting that field goal. So yeah, that was pretty fun.
It's it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't.
Everybody always thinks, you know what? You can call me a homer on this one because I know I'm going to get it. But every team always thinks they know we've got a super big weapon. Oh, our kicker. There's one Justin Tucker, and he kicks 60-plussers while singing opera, while making them every time.
Okay, yeah, I don't know about the opera thing, but I do know my guy is 100% in the NFL right now. So that's
you didn't know Justin Tucker does opera?
I mean, no, I'm just saying I don't know what it feels like to have a kicker kick a 60 and sing the opera. I only know about the kick a 60 part. So that's uncharted territory for me, though. So I'm gonna take it. After years of rolling out trolley kickers like Billy Cundiff, thank God there's at least somebody that could hit a field goal in a clutch moment.
The fabled Billy Cundiff.
The funny thing about, I think I was listening to this earlier today. The funny thing about Cade York hitting these big time kicks right now is I think LSU played a game because he's from LSU. And he shanked like a really bad, I would have to go back and look at it, but I remember him in a big game and he shanked one so hard, and it was one of those ones you should make. So they were having a little chuckle at Cade York being like all of a sudden this kicking hero for week one. Week one is an anomaly, people. Whatever happens in week one is week one. So don't look too much into Cade York being your kicker of the future.
Guys, first of all, say hi to Brazil. Hey, Brazil. We're in case you guys are wondering, comments are open. So come on in on our YouTube page, on the Blundell Network, Twitch, and their Facebook. It's going to be a good time. Couple of things happened this week. Week one, usually some crazy stuff happens, whether it's on the field or off the field or, hey, in the stand. So I'm not sure if that kick was one of the worst things or if this was one of the kid in the neck brace.
She must have been puking because she saw the Hubbard jersey. That's all I can think of. I don't know.
Just like
that was that.
So many
like just tucks the shirt too, right?
Yeah. It was like, what happens when being in a neck brace isn't the worst thing happening in your day anymore.
Getting
Or
puked
like the
on.
fact that she just like she goes for it like 3 times where she leans forward and she even looks at her shirt like, yeah, I'm doing a damn good job. And then
She
just
tucks it back in like, I just got to clean up. Yeah.
tucks it
And
in
on the final one,
and then just pukes on herself again.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, I'm just, yeah, okay.
like really had control of her game, I think, for the first 3 efforts, and then really just
exactly,
lost
yeah.
control. Yeah, I would say choked, but it was probably the opposite.
Yeah, went to go for the kick and blew it. So in Miami, things got a little bit crazier. Tailgating is supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be. That's bananas. I apologize for the videos. They crumped them. Basically, someone left their grill on and it burnt 6 cars in the parking lot. Miami. So safe tailgating, people. I think it goes without saying, does it not? You're gonna go tailgating, try not to light the parking lot on fire?
Yes, they're already out there. It's like it's only September. They're out there deep frying turkeys and lighting shit on fire.
Yeah, it's Bill. I mean, you'd expect that from like the Bills Mafia, but not in Miami. They're clean folk, are they not? Maybe not. And then this one, this has nothing to do with football, but you guys have seen it and it just makes me laugh.
Me llamaron de Colombia y yo los voy a buscar en un rato. Me dijo el chuki mío que llegaron.
That is what happened to the Denver Broncos on Monday night.
Did nobody tell us
she
she was supposed to duck or what? No,
I'm not sure.
I think I got it.
Yeah, it's it's so good. It's so good. Oh, I could watch that a million times.
The caption on that video, like, I have all of the questions.
Yeah, me too. I also have all of the questions because what's going on here?
I love the reaction too. He sort of just is like,
yeah,
next down, she down. All right.
So he's just like, play it cool. We're fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
So week 1, not the funnest for a few guys in the NFL. Dak Prescott's got a thumb injury. I think he's going to be out till like week 9. Elijah Mitchell's out. Jamal Adams is rumored to be out for the season. Russ's time management has been injured. It looks like it's been damaged since last season. Still doesn't understand that clock management. It's a thing. I mean, he's not throwing to guys in the end zone when the game matters, so he's improving. So there's that. Chris is not here to combat those comments, and that's fine. He's got stuff on the go. I mean, it's a Tuesday night. We're doing a football show. It's not like we haven't known about it. Even Ted is here on time, which is really impressive.
I don't miss these things.
I know you don't, but yeah, no, you don't. I'll give that. That's fair. So we've gone over the tailgating. How about stars that didn't score? Did you guys have Cam Akers in a league or
I did.
Komet, or
definitely participated in the Cam Akers experience. That was super fun.
Not fun. I'm quite thankful for Cooper Kupp bailing me out. I actually beat Chris. I was really hoping he'd show up this week. I could get a week 1 win.
That's probably why he's not here. Yeah,
against the champ. He's probably pissed because I still haven't got him his trophy yet. So,
is he the only champ that's went 500 in the regular season and won the whole thing?
You just get hot at the right time. It could be. I'd have to go back on the stats, but I think I deleted the league. So, NFL.com isn't exactly my safe space anymore. Derrick Henry didn't exactly have a big week. Devontae Smith. It was a kind of a rough week for some stars, and just like everything else.
Does he have a Cole Kmet in here as a star? Is that are we counting Cole Kmet as a star?
Yeah, people are expecting him to score, I believe.
You know who else didn't score? Nick Chubb didn't score, but he had 142, so it's okay.
So he made up for it by just running a lot. That's good. Guys, one thing that we tend to do after week 1, I mean, really every week, but definitely week 1, overreactions. So we see the star guy not score, or we see an absolute plug put up 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. We all jump to the waiver wire or throw all of our free agent bucks at this guy. I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of it this week. But
do you want to tell us who that is so we can?
I'm not going to. We're going to tell you later in the show. But now you guys have both won. So again, I'm going to ask for your experience on this. After week 1, you've usually got a pretty good team. I've seen both of you guys. You've constructed pretty good teams. I'm usually a couple good players, and I really got to work hard to have a good team. So after week 1, you want to go after those guys. And sometimes there's a diamond in the rough and they become superstars. It happens a lot. What should we be looking for or staying away from that are like the common mistakes that a lot of us will make after that first week? Because everybody's jacked up. They've just seen football. They've just seen so-and-so, like I said, run for 200 yards, or a receiver or a fullback get like 2 touchdowns and he looks better than the running back. Like, what do you guys look for? What's something you shouldn't do?
In my experience, you're not looking for somebody who just like had himself a week, right? Like we're talking about like a third or fourth receiver who maybe snuck into the lineup because of an injury and had himself a week.
Right.
That's where you can get into trouble, sort of, spending money on a big buy early on in the year. And I'm not against spending a lot of your money, a lot of your capital in the first 6 weeks on players. I think you just have to be really smart about it. I think you can pick up a player or two that you can win the league with, guys that weren't on anybody's radar, as long as you recognize who those players are. But it's not going to be somebody who was just hanging around, off roster player that sort of made the squad final cut and took over, that was filling in for somebody who inevitably is going to be coming back. So you got to be smart about those. And for me, if you're seeing like an aging vet have himself a monster week, who was probably an undrafted, I don't think that's worth spending a bunch of money on either. I think you can spend money on those guys. That's
Rancord's gone.
But you're not gonna go out and pick yourself up an aging veteran receiver or running back or something like that just because you had one good week due to injury. It's where you're going to be making your big picks is when an injury happens in week 1 and somebody fills in from the say Deonta Foreman gets all the carries because Christian McCaffrey gets hurt in game 1. That's a smart pickup. That's where you blow the majority of your fab bucks, not on stuff where it's sort of a shot in the dark.
Right. Now, I just to add to that before, Steve, I'm sure you've got a take on your, what about a guy that is not an injury replacement and he's actually utilized in a lineup? Like I said, maybe it is, a RB0. Like basically it's another running back, or maybe it's a third wide receiver that is finally getting that chance to step out. Do you still go after a guy like that, or are you still cautious on a guy that maybe they just went based on matchup? They just realized like, hey, we're going to spread the ball around anyway, and they're not going to see us getting the ball to this guy. So, he goes off for a big day, and now you think, oh, this guy's an absolute stud. And then, you've got your blinders on. You forget, oh, right, their top 2 receivers are the ones who mainly get the ball.
It's funny that you say that. My example of what Ted and you are both talking about is Andrew Beck in yesterday's game. I think he had 2 catches in the first quarter for 50-something yards.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh my gosh, like, is this Russ's new favorite target? Should we be going and getting this like undrafted fullback who is just catching passes? No, you don't do that because matchups dictate everything. So if Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy are kind of getting locked down, maybe it is in a matchup. You don't go and blow the bank on those kind of guys. I think Ted was right. If there's, a backup running back where the bell cow gets injured and you're looking at 8 weeks of bell cow running back, sure, waste all your fab bucks on that guy, but not necessarily just those flashy guys. Maybe if it's like a young rookie type who had promise, like my other example would be Jahan Dotson, where in Washington they have Terry McLaurin as their 1. Curtis Samuel is kind of looked at as a 2. Jahan Dotson is coming in as a rookie who has incredible hands, who's super fast. We just don't know what that connection is with Carson Wentz.
Right.
He kind of got held for most of the game until the end. I think it was like in the fourth quarter sometime. And Wentz hit him for a teardrop on a long bomb. And that's the Jahan Dotson we know. So we know it's okay to waste some money on a guy like that, where that's what he was brought in for, not as a result of like, our top 2 guys got shut down, so Andrew Beck is now like the leading receiver in Bronco country. Don't do that.
He's not getting covered anyway. So
Yeah, there's I think another like example of that is like, I was talking about the aging receiver, right? I mean, Jarvis Landry had himself a game last week. 7 receptions, like 140 yards. That's not a player that you should be flocking to spend a ton of fab bucks on. Like, hey, if you think you need receiver depth in the number 3 spot and you feel like spending, 10 of $100 or something like that, and you think that's a position that's going to help you, then do it. This isn't a scenario where you're going to go drop 50. Last year, when the Falcons basically showed their hand and Cordarrelle Patterson was going to be their guy.
Yeah.
That's when you would go and spend a big chunk of money to get yourself an RB1 that nobody else had sights on. And so those would be the difference between the two players that you'd be looking to pick up.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. I have one more, and then we'll get into obviously the main segment of the show. So I had my sights on in one of our drafts on Julio this year. So he goes to Tampa. Julio! He goes to Tampa. He's not the number one guy, but he's been a number one guy for obviously almost his entire career. So he goes to play with Tom Brady, has a wicked game. He made some absolute dime catches. He's not going to be their number one target, but he's going to be pretty close to a 1A, depending on what happens with Evans, right? Gronk's not there, so they have to get those targets to someone else this season. They're definitely going to rely on Fournette as well. But a guy like Julio Jones, who I think could have a pretty impressive season. I'm not talking like record numbers, obviously not, but a good enough season that he's going to be a consistent performer as long as he's healthy. So are we overreacting on a guy like Julio Jones after week 1? Or if you look and you've got someone that maybe picked him up in later rounds in your draft, do you go and make a trade early on, or do you wait another week? And what if he blows up again? And now all of a sudden, the feeling you had, now you lost your chance and now you have to offer up more. So where's that bar? Like, do you go after a guy like him? And he's the example I'm going to use. I know there's a few others, but do you go after a guy that has had a pretty decent week and you can see promise, or do you wait it out one more week?
I think Ted's example of Jarvis Landry is almost the exact same as Julio Jones in this situation. I don't think you go and blow half of your fab bucks for him. Yeah. I think he's probably in a tier above a Jarvis Landry. So maybe if you're looking at like 20, 25 kind of thing, because I don't see him as a number one. I also think that Godwin not being 100% elevated his status. So when Godwin comes back, he assumes that 1B role. We clearly saw that the offense still runs through Mike Evans and Leonard Fournette. Those are the two big bodies.
Totally.
Everybody else, Tom is going to do what Tom has always done, and he's just going to get the ball where it needs to go. So if that is Julio 1 week, great. If that's Cam Brate, great. If it's Russell Gage, great. He's just going to deliver it outside of those 2 targets, and 3 when Godwin comes back.
Okay. So like I said, and just to go back to it, now you're talking about you're spending bucks on like a free agency or waiver wire. What about a trade for like a Landry or a Julio? Like, are you hot and heavy on a trade like that, or do you maybe leave that alone for another week?
I think it depends on where you're feeling the need. If you are playing in a two receiver set league with a flex, and you only have one good receiver, and you're looking at a bunch of number 3s on your team or something like that, and you can get your hands on him for a piece, then I mean that's all based on expectations. You're not having him come in and be your number 1 receiver that you have to count on every single week. You're okay with him coming in and filling that number 3 role. Maybe he gets 3 receptions, 70 yards a week for the next few weeks before you sprinkle in some scoring and stuff like that. But he's probably going to be the wide receiver equivalent to what Gronk was in tight end rankings during his time with Tampa. So he's not going to be the best. He's going to have some really solid weeks where he's going to put up monster numbers. But he's probably going to factor into being in those top 10 tight end rankings, which means you probably put him in the top like 25 receivers, which isn't bad to roster, 25, 30. So it isn't bad to roster when you go to try to make a trade for him. But it's got to be because you really need to shore up a position. And there's probably multiple other guys that you could probably look at first, including trying to pick yourself up a Jarvis Landry from free agency. and just giving it a shot with him, right? Or a Robbie Anderson or something like that, where you can see,
Yeah.
hey, do I have 2 or 3 more weeks before I feel like I have to make a trade for a guy like Julio?
Is that in all types of leagues, Ted?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so, because I don't think he's breaking the bank when it comes to PPR either. So it
What was
probably
that?
is the same.
PPR means points per reception. Also,
that's a
in
good
case you're
setup
wondering,
there, yeah.
nothing is standard in PPR.
Walked right into that one, yeah.
I was just waiting. I was hoping you would. So,
Yep, Central over there.
oh man, I'm in control of all the toys over here. It's great. I love
Buttons, buttons, and buttons.
it. Steve, you had another one you wanted to get in?
George Jensen over here.
The other kind of don't overreact for week ones, especially if you are in a dynasty. I could see if you are in a single one-off year or redraft full years. Don't overreact on those big prized rookies that maybe didn't put up the volume you wanted to. I am all in on Breece Hall. I have him in both of my leagues that I'm in. He got out-touched by Michael Carter, who looked great. Okay, awesome. It's a long season. If you are in Dynasty and you picked up a guy like Breece Hall or Damian Pierce, and they didn't
Treylon Burks.
Yeah, Treylon Burks, any of those rookies, but especially I find the running back rookies, everybody is so quick to say like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I drafted Breece Hall first overall. He's in a timeshare with Michael Carter. And then by week 4, Breece Hall shows why he was selected so early in the draft and why pundits are so all in on him, because he is everything back. Like, are you okay with drafting Breece Hall first overall if their situation in New York becomes what Green Bay has in AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones?
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah. I'm still all in on him, because one injury away from you now maybe having the next Christian McCaffrey, or at worst you have an Aaron Jones. So I'm still all in on those guys. Don't overreact. Don't sell your prized pieces in Dynasty because of the first couple weeks if they don't pan out like you want them to.
And on the flip side of that, if you're a guy that's in a league, start targeting those players in trade like now.
Yeah. It doesn't hurt to ask. The worst thing you can do is say, hey, here's my offer for Breece Hall. Do you want to jump ship right away? They can just say no if they really don't want it, right?
If you're in a bad league, that trade happens.
Yeah.
So make sure you're predatory as well. That can
all of a sudden my phone is just getting blown up with trade requests.
Ding, 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 ding. Love it. All right, boys.
Julio Jones for Breece Hall. Wow, they must be watching the show.
Yeah, exactly. We're now at that point in the show that our namesake is built on. Welcome to. I'm going to try to do this. That helps no one stars. Let's see that. Oh, look at Tom Brady.
New pick this year.
New pick. We're going a little bit more, professional looking, I think. Right?
With the 80s music.
Exactly. Yeah.
Seems like an old pitcher. Is that like 43-year-old Tom Brady?
Yeah. That's easily 2 years ago.
He's like Jennifer Aniston. He's actually getting younger the older he gets.
Yeah.
He's the Benjamin Button of the NFL.
Yeah.
I like it.
Benjamin's buttons.
Benjamin's buttons. So, boys, Steve, actually, yeah, Steve, you get to have the lead first and foremost. So, who is your THNO for this week?
The first one of the season. How did I get
this? Is good. This feels good. This feels right, doesn't it?
This does feel right. And I knew I was excited for this show on Sunday when in our group chat I was starting to get a little hasty towards our non-existent friend Chris here.
Voice is gone as
surprised because one of you still took him. But you know what? It's a new year. It's a new me.
You're growing.
And yeah, I'm not just picking the same person or just an offensive lineman to score. I have now gone to the all-name team who have ruined your fantasy week.
Yeah.
So if you were watching the Las Vegas Raiders at the Chargers, you might have thought to yourself, okay, I've got Keenan Allen. Yeah, good for you. Not worth keeping. Oh, maybe you have a guy named Austin Eckler.
Just a second. Those are guys worth keeping, folks. Do not listen to those things.
Not worth keeping. Didn't get a touchdown. Neither one of those guys. Maybe it's a Mike Williams. No, also not worth keeping. There is a guy on that team named Xander. And you might be thinking to yourself, how is that? Is that with the X, like Xander? No, this is the Z. Xander Horvath out of Mishawaka.
Oh, yeah, Mishawaka.
He even hails from a town with a cool name, Xander Horvath of the Chargers. Fullback. He decided to have himself a day, not only catching 2 passes for 6 yards, he also rushed once for 2 yards, but he had the touchdown and he stole it, which helped absolutely 0 people in fantasy football this week. So Xander Horvath gets the inaugural season 2 THNO.
Let's check it out.
Area, they'll call it every time. Third and goal, the tight end's got the touchdown reception. The rookie out of Purdue, Xander Horvath. A 1-yard touchdown pass, and the Chargers are taking the lead here in the second quarter.
And the Powder Blues too.
It said Purdue. I thought he was from Michinawaka or whatever.
Oh, his birthplace is Mishawaka.
Mishawaka.
It's so funny.
Those soft hands too, eh? On the big man.
You know, the guy really isn't that known when the announcer's like, and to the tight end. And I see he's listed as a fullback, and he's like, and he kind of like trails off, and you can tell he's probably typing behind the scenes. He's like, oh, Xander Horvath out of Purdue, of course. Like
he's like, Xander Horvath.
Yeah. Not on our game sheet. How come he's not on our game sheet? He wasn't supposed to be in the first place. Love it. Good call. Good call.
So, Tim, if it makes you feel any better, I obviously got shotgunned, or we all got shotgunned early when it came to picking our THNO players this week. But that was going to be my guy, was Xander Horvath. So
was it actually?
Yeah. So I was quite happy to step back and take, you know, our boy with 1 reception, 1 yard, 1 TD. I mean, he's got all the right stuff. I think he checks all the boxes for what it means to be a THNO player.
I mean, he's the MVP award of this show.
He's the MVP award winner. What, 3 times he took this? Maybe people need to start getting wise to starting our boy Jody Fortson. Let's have a look.
Grab it, boom. Back in the end zone and coming back to get it. It's caught by Forston for the touchdown.
Oh, they need to get his name right.
Guys, that was just vintage Jody Fortson. When are we going to have to start starting this guy? I mean, he was rostered in 0.4% of leagues. He was started in 0% of leagues. So welcome back, Jody Fortson.
I mean, we have to keep picking him until he's not relevant, right?
He was the 1 yard, 1 reception, 1 TD.
He was the OG of that.
He was the man. Yeah. He was the only thing better than a Jody Fortson is a big man with football, right? So
did we get any of those this week, Steve?
I looked and looked. I didn't see any.
I was, because you took the over just for being fun, right? And I don't think we saw any.
Yeah. Don't bet hopefully nobody bet their house on that. I'm not legally liable for any sort of mishaps on DraftKings this week. I was going to say the best thing about Jody Fortson is I think in the true nature of that helps nobody candidate is people have to have, you know, the stars rostered and have those TDs poached by someone else. Now, who better than Travis Kelce, who is still regarded as 1 or 2 tight end, whoever, you know, he's probably still regarded as the number 1 tight end.
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh, down in the goal line, red zone, who are they going to go to? Oh, they've got to go to Kelce, especially now that Tyreek Hill is gone. And Jody Fortson's like, don't you forget.
Actually, he was like this.
Oh, is this what he did?
But yeah, I mean, guys, I'm starting to think Jody Fortson dude's pretty good.
Maybe he's legit.
I think if I have like a Hail Mary start, I have my, you know, I have a guy like, you know, a top guy that I'm not going to worry about all season until it comes to bye week. and Jody Fortson's available, like, I might just.
Well, he'll be you said that wrong. He will be available.
Well, I know we talk about him a lot on the show, so it might not be the case anymore. When if Jody Fortson's available and I'm in a bye week, I think I'm just going to pick him up and wait for the 1-1-1-1.
Can you imagine? He actually wins your week for you. Like, I won by 6 points.
Yeah, what happens if they actually, go wheels up on Jody Fortson? I mean, the guy looks like he can play.
I mean, we joke about it. He scores.
He's apprenticing under the number 1 tight end in the world. So I mean, he's got to be learning something, right?
Play forever. He will not play forever. Like we just talked about, like, being 1 injury away. Like, we are being funny considering his usage, his role. Somehow he still gets touchdowns. But if Travis Kelce goes down with a season-ending injury, could Jody Fortson actually be a legitimate starter in fantasy football?
Maybe he's Todd Heap to Shannon Sharp. We never know.
Whoa.
You know what? If Travis Kelce gets injured, what do we have? 100 for Fab Bucks? I'm placing all 100 on him right now.
Is he the next Jimmy Graham?
Injured, I'm going all in. I'm gonna just put it out. I don't care how it ruins my year. I'm spending every dollar I have if Travis Kelce goes out. You know what?
It's not a bad play. Especially if you're a Travis Kelce owner and he got hurt on you, then you make the pickup, the quick pickup for Jody Fortson, and then you find yourself a backup tight end, because obviously it's going to be Jody that runs with the ball.
Wow, who knew we'd be handcuffing tight ends this early? This like, who do you got to handcuff? I haven't even heard of this guy. Nobody's heard of this guy except for here. So I got a nice little pick here. Steve, you were so fortunate to go with the Chargers, and I thought similar color of jersey. And I thought, as I said in the opener, Derrick Henry, not a big week. He did not score a touchdown. Not a big week for the big man that is going to try to truck through as many people as possible this season. There was a guy, though, who did some catching from the back end. He is the next Cordarrelle Patterson. 3 catches, 61 yards, 2 touchdowns. You all know him. You've got him in your leagues. Actually, some people do, and I've been trying to make trades for these guys all day. Dontrell Hilliard. Check this one out.
First down at 20. Tannehill. Hilliard out of the backfield, up the sideline to the end zone for the second time today.
Taylor Lewan knew what was up.
The devastating Tannehill to Hilliard.
Like, that was a 30-yard score too. That's a good touchdown for anybody.
This is going to sound ridiculous. So Dontrell Hilliard spent a number of years playing in Cleveland behind Nick Chubb, and he was highly respected for being a ridiculously good pass blocking running back, and has obviously good hands to catch passes coming out of the backfield. He's not your typical tiny third down running back either. So this seems like a really good pickup and the perfect complement to a big bruising back like they have there, right? So yeah, it's not you'd probably want to handcuff your guy. I don't think you're going to roll him out and start him every week if Travis Henry gets hurt, but that might be a nice spot start in a flex option from week to week for sure.
They're gonna have to give him the pass option anyway, and that's the nice thing. You know what you've got in Derrick Henry, so he's going to be running up the gut. He's going to be eating the big yards, but you've got a guy as well that you can float out there, even if you go on a 2-back set, and you have to respect the main one. And if not, you've got a pass catching back that can clearly run, and he's pretty dodgy as well in the good way. And points are points, folks. At the end of the day, you win. Everybody cheers you on. Steve, I just want to, before we get to our next segment, that is a great hat. I know Ted said that privately, but I'm going to say it publicly. Because I also own it. And the shirt I'm wearing right here, I actually made because I own that hat. So we did not plan this. And that's amazing.
We didn't know. It's just
that's how well we're in sync.
Real.
That's how well we're in sync. These things just happen because things are that well. I've changed the name of one of our segments. It's no longer Sleepy Starts. We've now changed it to Sneaky Starts. There's Taylor Lewan. Now, it's funny because clearly he's a huge guy and he's not sneaky. So that's why he's on our new clip. What do you guys think so far? Pretty good.
I think it's
Production value.
It's like starting the running back that you drafted number 1 overall, saying you're going to start him this week.
Yeah, Najee Harris.
I think we should reach out to Taylor and see what he thinks of it. To be honest,
I've been reaching out to anyone that'll listen.
These areas of the world, so maybe he'll stop.
I have actually my brother-in-law. He sends me a text this summer, and he's like, "Yeah, just, a good friend of his. He's like, yeah, just chilling at Apple Bowl." And he's like, "Oh, check it out." I'm like, "Hey, that's Taylor Lewan." And he's like, I'm like, "Wait, which one?" Because the other, clearly they were both had their shirts off, and I clearly knew who was who. But yeah, he was chilling out in Kelowna. Good guy, apparently, as many people have said. Just hanging out in his off season, getting ready for the big season, and then losing against the Giants, which wasn't a lot of fun. So, Ted, who's our first sneaky start of the season?
My first sneaky start of the season is going to be Detroit Lions running back Jamal Williams. No, this might not be a sneaky start because it might be an RB that some guys have on their roster. But what I'm saying is, and I've done this for the last few years, is start your DeAndre Swift, but also start your Jamal Williams. I think it's very obvious that it's possible he could play the Kareem Hunt to Nick Chubb role this season, especially if they continue to split carries. He's available in 85% of leagues. Similar to Nick Chubb, was involved on a couple of plays, scored on both of them. He's obviously got a nose for the end zone. And they're going to run the wheels off of DeAndre Swift, but they're going to need help, right? I mean, that's just the way they do it. I think Detroit recognizes that they have a possible two-headed monster threat out there in the backfield, and they're going to take advantage of that. And so if you have Jamal Williams, then I would be not shy at all about starting him in my flex position. If you have DeAndre Swift, I would still be looking at starting Jamal Williams. And I think that I think this is just a solid pickup, especially if you can go get him in your league where he's just so available right now.
Good call. It's a great call.
Not in our league, he's not available.
Not in our league. That's because we have like 100 players. But yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? Even still,
I only say that because I sat him on my bench this last week. So he didn't help me at all. But guess what? Darren's team sucks, and I didn't actually need him. So
just a quick question before we get to mine, because I'm going to go next. I know it's been like a week or so. How did your guys' 17th round go in our draft? Was it pretty good? Like, did you get anyone of value in that round?
I think I picked up Steve's Laviska Shenault before I instantly dropped him, and then accidentally added Casey Printers, and then realized that he doesn't play anymore either in the PFL, so I dropped him too.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorite things of draft day is you draft all your players with the understanding that if you draft a guy in the draft, that's the best available player that you could possibly want. And the second the draft ends, guys are just like head down, ad drop. And you're like, why do we even do the last 3 rounds? Like, is there a point to them?
That's a good... That's fair. So I also got a few texts from a few people right after that, just asking about their missing draft picks from a few people, actually. My cousin, one of them. And I said, well, I needed to add 2 more players after the draft ended. So clearly I needed those. I didn't complain.
So, I hope somebody's available for you.
Yeah, exactly. So when
come with me while I sift through the garbage.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, what's that? Well, that's a dead rat. Don't worry about that. I bet he could start. That's great.
Yeah, I probably would have drafted Jamal Williams if I knew I had a 17th overall pick. I'll tell you that for free.
Yeah, it's just something that sometimes people ask these questions, like, how do your late rounds go? And for me, I don't remember.
Got a lot of text on that.
I got more than one. I only really remember one.
See, I generally try to trade my 17th and 16th and 15th round draft picks away so that I don't have to draft that late in the draft.
Oh, we got a question before we get to mine. Actually, I'm going to answer my thing, and then we're going to get to your question in like 2 seconds here. So my sneaky start, and I had talked about this guy all last season. You should get on board with this now that they got rid of Tyreek Hill. Mecole Hardman. It's Mecole Hardman season. 3 for 6, 16 yards, 1 touchdown. Sneaky AF. He's the third option.
Ventura, we're going to hit that question real quick. Sorry to cut you off, Ryan.
Absolutely. He's the third option for the Chiefs after we saw how much they spread the ball around week 1. It's going to continue to happen. He's in a pretty amazing team. 63% owned. So people are aware of him, but he's only 13% started, you guys. And I said this last season. He was definitely worth adding, definitely worth starting. Not every week, but he's going to get the ball. And they spread the ball around a lot on that team. And in PPR, for sure, I would be starting him if you can. He's a safe pick. If you don't have a really deep team and you just need a guy to go in there, if he's available, like, it's not going to hurt you to have him, just even stashed away. Worst case. Best case is you have to throw him in, and you're going to get, on PPR, you're probably going to get, three catches for sure. And he's probably going to bleed out at least, a 10 or 15 yard runs. Like, you're going to get a little bit more. So, wow, lots of big questions here. First, we're going to get to Ventro, and then Ted, and then Steve will get to yours. So I'm going to put this up quickly. Hopefully that shows up. Should I trade Daryl Henderson for KJ Osborne and Damian Pierce? I'm going to leave that to one of you guys because I am the wrong person to ask.
So if you have Daryl Henderson, you run to that button and you press accept as fast as you possibly. I don't care if it's standard, half PPR, PPR.
What happens in half PPR? I forget.
It splits, I think. Yeah.
I'm glad you asked, Ryan. I
Check out our trailer.
I am not sold on Daryl Henderson. He got the majority of the carries. He was playing a tough Buffalo Bills defense, but he was only rushing for 3.6 yards per carry. I know everyone who drafted Cam Akers, who has Cam Akers, is choked and
Me.
is the world is on fire kind of idea. But guess what? Cam Akers is the future of their running back. Damian Pierce is the future of Houston's backfield. So if you have Daryl Henderson and somebody offers that, run and smash that accept button. It might not pay off this week or next week, but over the course of this season, you win that trade 100 times over.
Yeah, with Steve unequivocally on this one. I think this is just your typical coach having a lesson rolled out to the rookie. I guess he's not a rookie anymore, but he's really just attacking his first real season. Hey, this isn't going to be given to you. You need to earn your reps. You need to earn your place in this offense. Henderson was here with us last year, but I think the writing is on the wall that it's going to be Akers down the road. And like Steve said, I don't think you can hit that button fast enough. On the other side of this trade, you're also getting KJ Osborne. I know he's the third. He's the third on that offense, but he also got the third most targets, and it's going to be Jefferson and Thielen down the road. But if that's just another piece that you can stash away on your bench, should anything happen to those guys, or you need to be in, you're already in a PPR league, so he's getting a decent amount of targets there. So even if he rolls out, 4 receptions for 30 yards or something like that, that's going to be a nice little payday in a flex start position. So I just think, you can't hit this trade fast enough. Just go after it.
Man, you guys know stuff. And there's a second question here, and I'm trying to find my little thing. But Mecole Hardman or Sky Moore? That's, Sky Moore is a rookie this year, right?
Yeah.
So it's really early. I wouldn't be stressing out about either of those guys personally right now. You could probably play around with both and see what becomes the fit. Mecole's been in the system, so again, you're going to have a little bit more trust with a quarterback that knows where to put him, knows where he's going to be, and can put the ball in those spots. At the same time, you're probably going to have a hot week where you're going to see Sky Moore go off, where nobody's going to be covering him because they're going to be putting the ball to, CEH, or you're going to have Kelsey or someone else. So that's a fun offense, and I don't think you're going to get to feast at some point. It's tough to say when, but I would say if you've got Sky Moore, you're probably going to be chucking him in at some point anyway. Anybody that's in those rookie drafts, he's one of the guys you'd want anyway. So, as an overreaction, if you had both of them, you're like, oh, this guy scored. Mecole Hardman's a great option, but at the same time, if you're watching our show, like we're trying to find the diamonds in the rough, or at least we're dragging around in the rough. So we're not exactly here for the home run picks. If you happen to hit a home run, Dawson Knox was a big one last year. That was one that ended up panning out quite nicely. There was a few other players. I'm going back. I'd have to look. But yeah, there's definitely guys that, we come across for sure. But right now, I wouldn't be freaking out too much on either one of those guys. But try them both out. I mean, at the very least, Mecole Hardman's not a household name for a lot of people, so you could probably pick him up for next to nothing realistically.
So I would be interested to hear what Steve has to say on this one, but for me, I disagree, man. I'm going after this Sky Moore trade, and if I can get my hands on Sky Moore for a guy like Mecole Hardman, then I'm doing it almost instantaneously, almost as quick as I'm making that trade for.
There's no trade though in this one.
Yeah.
He's just, I think, one or the other.
Yeah, I mean, one or the other, sure. I mean, if you're in a league where both of these guys are available, and then Sky Moore needs to be on your bench over Mecole Hardman. So if you have a roster that has Mecole Hardman on it, and he's not going to factor into your week-to-week starts, neither is Sky Moore, but one clearly has a huge amount more potential than the other. And for me, that's Sky Moore, so that's why he needs to be on your roster over Hardman.
I feel like I said that in less words.
I honestly,
maybe more words.
So for me on this one, it's definitely what type of a league you're in. If you are in a single year league where you're not, keeping players or anything like that, Andy Reid has shown a very strong tendency to go with the veteran hand. So a guy like Mecole Hardman, who is trusted in his system, he's probably going to get more looks. If I'm in a dynasty league, I really like Sky Moore. I think he showed I think he was drafted out of Western Michigan. He can put up big numbers. So is Hardman there next year? I don't know that. I think Sky Moore could be the future. I'm also not really sold on Juju or MVS as long-term targets for Pat Mahomes. So I am with Ted. I will take Sky Moore, starting him more often. In terms of just keeping guys, Sky Moore is the clear-cut favorite.
I feel like I'm being crapped on for saying that you shouldn't have Sky Moore. I did not say that. You guys are basically.
You were like, yeah, I like them both. Like, try them both out. They're both fun.
He asked a fair question, and I gave a fair answer. You guys, no, Ryan's.
I feel like you sat on the fence for his answer.
I probably did. Steve, get to yours, and then we got a couple questions here as well.
Yeah, okay.
For your start.
I just noticed. Yeah. So my sneaky start is our good buddy DJ Shark.
I like him. I tried getting him again.
Did you?
Yeah, he wasn't available because I didn't have a pick for the first 4 rounds. So.
Oh yeah, classic.
You
that's me. Take him with your 17th round pick. Darn. Yeah. Game changer.
Maybe in the 10th round.
This week he was targeted 8 times, which our buddy Mike, who no longer plays in the league with us, he was very, very high on drafting wide receivers who get targeted a lot because that's opportunity, right? It's just like running backs who get carries. And he tended to find a lot of really good wide receivers. So 8 targets in a game is great. 4 catches, 52 yards, and a touchdown. Well, Jamison Williams is still recovering from that knee injury he suffered at Alabama. You got to go pick him up. He's only rostered in 22.1% of NFL.com leagues. So there's a pretty wide opening for a guy who's a wide receiver 2, but has shown the ability to be a wide receiver 1. So I think with him and Amon-Ra St. Brown, you've got kind of like a 1B and a 1B, or maybe a 1A and a 1B. He's worth it to me, even though Jared Goff sucks. The targets are there. The opportunities are there.
He has to throw to somebody good. So
I'm Shark.
Love it. Okay, so we got a few questions here. We'll try to get these quicker because we do have one more segment, and then maybe we'll take a few more questions. If you guys keep tuning in every week, we can make the first part shorter, and we can answer as many questions as are in there. Singletary or Ramondre, who wants this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can both jump into this, but I feel like at this point in time, especially this early in the season, it's a bit of a coin flip. Ramondre was really hot going into the season. I think a lot of people saw what he did towards the end of last year and really solidifying himself in that running back position. But I just don't know if it's there yet for him. I think he's back in what seems like a little bit of trouble and with Bill. I think it's possible we could see him bench next season, or not next game. Heading into the week against the Steelers, and like we could see him sit on the bench for 4 more weeks before all of a sudden Bill puts him in and he's feeding him 30 carries a game. Like it's a different running back, and it's the same story with old Bill, right? I mean, you just don't know. I'm pretty sure Bill plays fantasy football, and that's what he does this to mess with everybody, and nobody trusts Steelers running backs.
Rex
I think
Burkhead.
our old guy James Rayburn was like just adamant about that. But that being said, I mean, Singletary is also a guy who you're probably not rolling out each week either, right? Pardon me. And I think the problem in Buffalo is that we don't know who's getting the goal line work, and it really sucks for Singletary that their goal line running back is probably also their quarterback. So that's an issue. I think if I'm going to stash a guy on my bench, again, these are two players that we're talking about that aren't factoring into your starting rosters. I think Stevenson is still the better guy to have as a stash player, even though you're not using him week to week. And if you're in a good spot with running backs, then I would go Ramondre. If you're not in a good spot with running backs, then you have to go Singletary. So it's a kind of a catch-22 with that one.
Lovely.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you on this one. When I have two, especially running backs, where you just don't know what the hell you're getting. Like you were exactly on with Bill Belichick. I had Damian Harris last year. I traded for him before Ramondre kind of was the hot hand, and Bill just went with him. So I got burned by the classic Patriots hot hand. You're also right about Singletary kind of being in this unknown committee as well. They've got, they drafted James Cook. They have Zach Moss, who likes to take those goal line carries. Josh Allen is going to get those goal line carries too. So,
and different people.
For me, if there's two so unknown players, I sometimes like to take the player where the opportunity to get touchdowns is higher. Buffalo's offense is off the damn charts, which means Singletary can have the opportunity to score more touchdowns, to be featured more. So I'm actually taking Singletary in this one. Neither guy is overly
running back. This is his running back depth. Here we go.
So I mean, that's a pretty good running back depth. So in this scenario, for me, Axis, I'm holding on to Ramondre in the hope that that's going to be a guy who can actually win me a league if he does what he does at the end of the year. Had your running back depth been worse, then I obviously would have went with Singletary in this one.
Yeah, man, that's not bad.
That's great question, Axis. Thank you.
Not bad at all. And to our final segment, and I'm sure we'll get some more questions, but to our final segment, and he's not here, but that's okay. Wait, there we go. It's an easy rollover one. Sleepy ads.
We got another trade here.
Another trade guy that's already sleeping. Okay, so we'll get to this question, then we'll get it. What do you think? Here, let's post this up. What do you think of my trade last week? I sent CD and Etienne for Javonte and Amar St. Brown in PPR draft.
I actually think that's a fairly even trade. I think CeeDee Lamb is a really, solid wide receiver. Obviously, last week he didn't know that Dak was going to be out. But Amon-Ra St. Brown came on strong last year. I think they're very equal in what they can bring to the table. I'm pretty high on Travis Etienne because he can catch, he can run out of the backfield. I love those dual threats. But Javonte Williams is also kind of like a really dependable guy that you can always take. So I actually think that trade works for both people. And Ryan is bringing the tailgate.
I'm in the tailgate zone. This should have been for earlier. I apologize. I'll have it up for next week.
I have no idea what that had to do with it, but I think that's a great trade. I don't know that anybody won that one, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the only caveat to this would be, that CD is now playing with a broken quarterback. So that was probably a win. I think what Steve's saying is really accurate, especially with the St. Brown piece going back the other way. I think this really is a fair trade and probably helps both of you out. But what's going to win it in the short term is the fact that you moved CD off your roster, and we don't know what's going to happen with that quarterbacking situation in the future. So nice work.
Okay, so we're at Sleepy Ads, and I'm just trying to confirm my guy because I'm going first. Dontrell Hilliard. Somehow it says that he's 0% owned in our sleeper league or in sleeper leagues, period. Ownership. He's rostered. Sorry, they've finally changed it. 13% rostered, 1% started.
Did you make Dontrell Hilliard both your
I did
sleepy
the three-peat. Yeah, I took all three.
Wow.
I'm big on him this week. I put
Oh
all my
my
money
God.
into him.
That also seems
That's me.
lazy.
That
It's
does-
not lazy. It's not lazy. He's a guy that you should be starting. He's a guy you should be adding. He also had a week that you needed to pay attention to him. That's
Well,
the.
there you go.
It's,
You could have said that for one segment and given the people a little more juice for the others.
you know what? I'm gonna. I'll be. Don't worry. I always make sure that I show up
Yeah.
every week.
If you're tuning in this week, then you have only one guy that you can be adding this week from Ryan's.
Unfortunately,
Batman
unfortunately,
is
none
not
of
our
the
show this week, so somebody had to be the whipping boy, and you gave us the layup again. Like
I know. I mean, at least I can talk, and I'm like, no, I'm not talking. I'm gonna bite throat like this.
just like in your baseball game, you are serving up meatballs, and they are getting cranked right
You
now.
know what? If you win 21-20, that's all that matters.
Wins a
So
win.
anyway, he's like I said, no AJ Brown. They're the new Cordero Patterson, RB0 baby. He's available. This is week 1. I'm a little rusty. I got a lot of buttons I got to press. I'm trying to make sure the chat goes well here.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you very much. It's at the same time, yeah, I'm the whipping boy, and I don't mind it. If Chris was here, we would be making fun of him, and he'd probably have some comment about big boobs. So
He loves
and
that. Yeah.
and so he does. So it's
Ryan can't even bring himself to say it. He's like, nope.
no, I'm better than that. So Steve, rebound here and make sure you can save the segment for us.
I'm not going to be lazy, so I kind of diversified my portfolio, if you will. Although I didn't go too far.
There's some big wording happening.
Look into the 401k section. Here we go.
This one was actually pretty easy for me because obviously watching the Ravens game, we got to see Devin Duvernay get kind of unleashed into the offense. He got a chance. He got his opportunity. He got 52% of the snaps, which doesn't sound like a lot for a player. Rashad Bateman, who is their wide receiver 1, I think was in the 65%. So he's clearly the wide receiver 2 on the Ravens. He's rostered in just 0.5% of NFL.com leagues. And he had a couple touchdowns this week. So not that I think he's going to be, a focal point of every week for the Ravens, but he had 4 catches, 54 yards, 2 touchdowns. There was a couple long touchdowns which looked really good. So yeah, that's my ad.
That's Mr. Nick Kenneth Walker, sleepiest of ads. Yeah.
We didn't pick Kenneth Walker because I just assumed that it was going to be Chris's ad, but he's not here. Yeah.
So technically we have 4, but
it is a really good pick though, especially if you are in those keeper leagues and people are just looking at, Rashad Penny is the number 1 guy. Kenneth Walker is probably going to be that guy, moving forward. I think Chris would be on here singing his praises and saying how good Rashad Penny will be. If they don't pay Rashad Penny, you've got Kenneth Walker kind of sliding right in there. I did pick Kenneth Walker up in my other league. I think it was like 7th or 8th round. I was like, I don't need him for this year. I just want him to be the RB1 for the Seahawks.
And someone will want him.
If you can add him in a redraft or in a dynasty, go get your hands on him.
Ted, who is your sleepy ad? You can't say Gino.
My sleepy ad is also Dontrell. No, just kidding.
We had a rule. You can't do that.
I'm gonna go a little off the board here, and I'm gonna go back to Taysom Hill. I think it'll be a little similar to what he was 2 years ago versus last year. So he's one of those sort of rare football players, right? That actually has some fantasy impact.
He is a football player.
Yeah, but there's like the football players that you don't see them you don't see their contribution show up in fantasy like you would on the field, right? And I think Hill, if used correctly, is one of those players. So this year, what makes him different than previous years is that he's listed as a tight end. So you can have him sitting there on a spot that, I mean, honestly, we're all looking for reaches for anybody that can be a bit of a home run and score you more than 6 to 8 points per week. They obviously continue to use him in the Wildcat. They slot him in for goal line situations. He takes direct snaps. The odd time he might throw a pass, but he's obviously got some serious running ability. I think, I mean, you have to be smart about it when you're going to be making your starts for him, but he might not be a bad guy to have on your roster as a secondary tight end moving forward.
What was his contract situation like? Was it games started, or how did that work out? Because he had some really funky hybrid contract.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. I was actually just looking it up because I remember
Tim Tebow's available also, folks.
Yeah. He signed like $140 million contract, and the world was
wild.
Like, what the hell is going on? There was a whole bunch of voided years. There's a reason why Taysom Hill is still on that team and they have to use him. His dead cap for this year would be almost 29 million.
What?
Next year, it's almost 24 million. He's got an opt-out the year after, but his dead cap would still be 9.8, 5.8, and 1.8 until his year 36.
Yeah, and that's a factor. They have to use him, right? They
have to use him now.
And it's not like it's not like he's busted either. Like the guy can still ball. Like he can still ball, but you have to use him correctly, and he was used wholly incorrectly last year. And to a certain extent, the year before that, they were using him in all the right situations. I think you go back to players like Josh Cribbs, and I can't remember his name, freaking Miami running back of like years before him, where they started installing the Wildcat right off the bat. Brown. Yeah. Ronnie Brown, right? I mean, if you're using these players correctly, and finally they set him in a position other than quarterback. So now he actually has value that you can actually use this guy on your roster, because you certainly couldn't before, and now that opens up.
That's a clever pick. He's such an enigma, that guy. Like, really, what are we going to get him? But I mean, it's probably a guy you're going to want to pay attention to regardless. I mean, whether you're adding him or not. Like, if he starts showing up on stat sheets, I think we're going to have to start.
So here's another little value piece to what Ted is saying as well. The fact that they're not using him as a quarterback anymore means that you don't have to start him as a quarterback. So I just checked this out on our Sleeper app. He is listed as a tight end.
Yeah.
So you don't have to waste that coveted quarterback position for putting a guy there who may get some yards, who might not. Like, that's what tight ends are for. Tight ends,
but in a flex too. You don't need him in a super flex. You can put him as a normal flex.
That's what I mean. Like, you know, if you don't have Kelsey Andrews, you know, Darren Waller, those guys,
Jody Fortson, why not take a stab at a Taysom Hill who's going to get some goal line yards, who's going to get some carries probably. It's an underrated thing to use a guy who isn't a tight end in a tight end spot when you don't have one of the top ones.
Especially for a guy who, even though he's in the tight end spot, doesn't really play the tight end spot. Like, I mean, they line him up as a running back. They set him in as a lead blocker. They let him throw passes. Like, they trust him enough to do those things.
Yeah.
And he may still catch passes at a tight end. So if you're looking for a guy to be your backup, how does 4 points, 5 points, 6 points help you when you're on a playoff push to win the league? A league winner is a guy who's going to perform over and above expectations, and the ceiling for Taysom Hill versus other people that are in his position are just not as high.
Like, especially if you don't have that top tight end. Like, what happens if Jameis Winston goes down in a game and he's still listed as a tight end, and you get two quarterbacks?
Oh my God.
If you're in a super flex.
We're going to hear about this next week, aren't we?
It's one of those things that you don't think about until you're like, oh my gosh,
tight end.
Oh, wait a second. He's throwing passes. Now I've got like a second quarterback, or if I'm in a 2 quarterback league now, I've got a third quarterback on my team, and he's only taking up my tight end spot. And it was him, or it was Jody Fortson, who I'm trying to like,
who we love,
who we love, but you know, or maybe it's like a Robert Tonyan or someone like that, where you're like, I'm really hoping to get 4, 5, 6 points. Yeah. And now you got 20 something, because
that's what I had with, I mean, you guys joke about it. Dexter McCluster, big fan over here. He was listed as, I think they had him as a running back,
like an RB6.
Exactly, on one team. They had him listed, I can't remember, for the longest time. It was either a running back or wide receiver, but he wasn't in the proper position. So I think they had him listed as a wide receiver. So you could flex him either way. And those kind of guys, like, again, whether they're semi-decent, I guess Tavon Austin would be another great option. But for Taysom Hill, when you actually add the quarterback aspect, which, I mean, we joke about it, but yeah, if he's legit, now you're getting some easy money. And if you're not in a super flex where you have 2 quarterbacks, you got a tight end that all of a sudden starts throwing passes. You know, those are points, those are freebies. You're playing with house money at that point. So love it. Good pick. See, Ted, that's you always make sure you bring it up and we finish on a strong note. So you guys, this has been an awesome week 1 recap, overreactions, injuries, and Russ got. Feels good. Russell Wilson on the bench when it matters the most.
That's
Good. That's good times. You guys, make sure to follow That Helps No One FantasyCast on Twitter. We've got a YouTube page as well. You can go follow all of us, as you can see our tags on our screen here. If you guys want to comment along, please come by every single week. We will be doing this every Tuesday. We're going to have amazing content for you. Go check out our trailer episode, which is or I guess it's just a trailer. It's pretty funny. It's good stuff. Some of my best editing work, I must say. It's good. But you know what? Good luck this week in whoever you're taking on your waiver wires, and hopefully we have some amazing stories to talk about next week. I know we will, because I have a pretty terrible team, so at least we'll be able to joke about somebody. And hey, maybe if Chris knows the time we're going to be starting, even though I'm pretty sure he's the one that set the time for tonight, you know, maybe next week, Tuesday, around this exact same time, that we'll have 4 people on the show instead of an odd number 3. So on behalf of Steve, Ted, I am Ryan. This is That Helps No One FantasyCast on the Dean Blundell Network. Go check out the new podcast so you can listen to it on your drive to work tomorrow, or when you're sitting at your desk bored out of your tree, or hey, maybe you're a teacher and you just want to tune up the kids in your class.